Hey, Astro Detectives listeners, this is a sneak peek into one of our classified Detectives-only episodes. If you'd like to hear the full discussion, you can increase your access level at patreon.com/astrodetectives. Now, here's the show. Hello, Astro Detectives listeners and followers over on Patreon. We're here with another special episode. This is becoming quite a little monthly party we have, a musical party, where we talk about the songs that match the season. And we're in Virgo season this time. Sarah, we're very happy to have an actual Virgo with us. Virgo sun, that is.
Yeah, and you're a Virgo too, as far as I'm concerned.
It's my rising.
Yes, you got it.
Yeah.
We're very Virgo. And
today, well, I like to really, we may be Virgo in general, which was what you're saying, but I love leaning into the sign that we're talking about because I think there's benefits in trying to embrace the good, at least, aspects of each sign. You know, so last time we had our tail feathers out and we were really owning the stage and enjoying our performance as Leo season was upon us. Yes. Before then, we had our most emotional podcast, Digging Deep as Cancers. So today, you're going to kind of walk us through some of the Virgo traits, the good and the bad, and the music that might be associated, the songs that you picked to match those traits. And then at the tail end, as we always do, I submitted some songs before this, and we're going to see how did Scott do? If I can back up my choices and if I get a passing grade for Virgo season. I'm on a bit of a roll. I think I've done well for the first two.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, instead of having our flashy tail feathers out, we're going to be very demure and mindful for this podcast.
Mindfulness. I didn't even, that's new to me. I didn't know that was a Virgo trait.
It is, because Virgo's planet that rules it is Mercury. And Mercury is all about the mind and logic and communication and being analytical. So, yeah.
And so do they all get thrown off during Mercury retrograde?
Oh, yeah. That's why we have lots of miscommunications, and Mercury is also associated with technology. So, there's all sorts of tech failures, and, they always say, like, don't sign contracts during a Mercury retrograde. I mean, you can if you have to, but just know that you really need to, like, read every detail very closely, because there's a good chance that there was like a miscommunication or something that you didn't understand in the contract, or it's going to have to be revised again later. So that's why a lot of people, as a superstition, try to avoid that. I mean, and I've experienced that myself quite a bit where, like I bought a mattress last year and I was going to have it scheduled to be delivered and during a Mercury retrograde. And of course, there was a miscommunication and they screwed it up. So, yeah, it happens all the time.
Law offices will be glad that most people don't know about that, because they can't be shutting their doors a third of the year for no contracts or no negotiations or those kinds of things. But us here in the Astro Detective, the detective agency, we know, and we can take advantage of those times of the year.
Yeah.
I was curious if Mercury retrograde especially affected Virgos, though, since they're ruled by Mercury. Did we have an especially hard time with so much Virgo energy in this episode, just between the two of us?
I mean, yeah, I think as a general rule of thumb, like if you have Virgo and Gemini planets, I mean, they're just going to be more susceptible to mishaps and miscommunications when its planet that lords it is retrograde. But there's a lot of other things to consider too. It's a very, the transits in our astrology, it's all just like this very intricate moving puzzle that's just constantly moving. And there's so much going on at any given moment. But, for example, like if you're I don't know if we've talked much about annual perfections, but that just basically is a timing technique where, each year of your life, a different house in your astrology chart is like the themes associated with that house will be dominant that age. Like me, I just turned 45, so I'm in a 10th house perfection year, which has to do with career. So hopefully that will benefit us here on the podcast, career and public reputation, things like that. And so that means, so then I look at my 10th house, I've got Scorpio there. Scorpio is ruled by Mars. So Mars becomes we call it my time lord this year. So if Mercury is your time lord and there's a Mercury retrograde going on, you're going to be more affected by that. So there's lots of different ways that you could be caught in the snare of a Mercury retrograde.
Not me, though. I'm immune. Skeptics are immune. We don't believe in it. It doesn't hit us.
I mean, it was going through your first house, that retrograde, I think. What did you, okay, so we're just kind of at the tail end of the Mercury retrograde that went through Virgo and Leo. And now it's like, it turned around. So we call that station direct. And now it's moving back forward. And this is like the post shadow phase where everything's winding down. Did you have any significant miscommunications or tech issues the last 3 or 4 weeks?
No. I mean, every now and then we have little things here and there, but I don't log them, but I imagine if I was thinking to myself, it's Mercury retrograde, they would have they would have been more memorable. But nothing big. Nothing that even pops out. Just every now and then you're logging into your computer at work and it needs a password update and you got to, but nothing that doesn't normally happen. I have to reauthorize so many times just in general to get into work.
I feel like you're missing a very big Mercury retrograde miscommunication mishap that happened between us.
Is this the chart with the big 3?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But that's like a significant misunderstanding that led to, it's not just that we had a misunderstanding. I was kind of like irked about it. We talked about it and, and so that made it a little bit more significant, and we sorted it out. But that is a typical Mercury retrograde thing that can happen where somebody misunderstands something or makes a mistake or forgets something. And then it's, you talk about it or try to work through it, or, a lot of people can also hear from people from their past, like their exes or things like that.
Yeah.
So I think me as an astrologer, because I'm thinking about astrology every single day, I'm so aware of every little thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see how it'd be easy to just, that's why I think next Mercury retrograde, I think a great exercise would be, if you wanted to just, if you're curious, to try and write down every time, there's a tech issue or you have a misunderstanding with someone or, you signed some paperwork and it had to be revised later, things like that.
Well, the way that I would do it is write that down when it's not Mercury retrograde and write it down when it is Mercury retrograde. Just like if you say, I'm going to take the next 6 months or 4 months or whatever and document every time that I have a miscommunication, which sounds like a lot of homework. But, see if there's a difference between it being more so in the Mercury retrograde and less so when it's not. And again, is there going to be a dramatic difference to where I say, oh, these always seem to happen Mercury retrograde, which is
Yeah.
funny that we're talking so much about Mercury. I mean, Virgo is Mercury, so
Yeah.
we're still on topic of Virgo. But
Yes.
I think in noting all the times that there's a miscommunication during Mercury retrograde, you're kind of like, you're looking for it and it will be there.
I don't think you can just look for something and it materializes.
Like we have miscommunications all the time, but we may not like notice them if they don't have meaning behind them. Like tech issues. We have tech issues all the time. We have like orders get messed up. On the dates of Mercury retrograde, I realized like it goes like right through the holiday season. So everybody's going to be complaining about my package didn't get here, my whatever happened. Because I mean, there's a lot of traffic anyway, just with things going through the mail.
Well, just write it. I think that's a great exercise. Yeah. Start like when it's not Mercury retrograde, like in October, and then just make a log in your phone anytime it happens. Just be very aware of like misunderstandings, especially if it's like a tech issue or misunderstanding that causes a lot of frustration, or, you know, not like you were just logging in and you forgot your password and had to look it up, you know, it's not something like that, but like something a little more substantial is like, you know, anyway, we're getting in the weeds, which is a very Virgo thing to do.
All right, good. Whew.
Yeah.
So you got any songs about being in the weeds, or where did you want to kick things off?
Yeah. Well, we're talking about Virgo today, and I honestly I am a Virgo, and I have a lot of planets in Virgo. My chart ruler's in Virgo. My North Node's in Virgo, but like I don't feel like it's necessarily my favorite sign. I mean, maybe on some days, but like Virgo is also very known for being kind of like plain and vanilla and and because it's a very humble sign. That's like a big key word for Virgo, is being humble. You know, after flashy, over the top, extravagant, look at me, Leo, then we go the opposite direction with Virgo. It's like we're bringing things back down to earth because it's an earth sign, and we're going to get practical. We're going to help other people. We're going to be of service, you know, but it's very humble. It's very demure. Virgo is. And so, anyway, building this playlist was not necessarily like my favorite one to do. I found this one really hard because like with Leo and Cancer, they really lend themselves to music. Like, you know, Cancer is like really getting in your feels and being emotional and the blues and all this stuff. And Leo is, you know, there's a lot of pop stars that are Leo, and it's about, you know, kind of bragging and being seen and all this stuff. And then Virgo is like really, yeah, it's very humble. So there aren't a ton of songs about being humble. and just kind of like Virgo is like more like the administrative assistant type person to the Leo star, you know, making sure everything's going well behind the scenes. So that doesn't really inspire a lot of music, you know. Did you have trouble too when you were picking out songs?
I guess it felt more specific. So it was fun because I felt like there were some characteristics and they're very specific. And so I was like looking for songs that brought out those characteristics. And it was a little confusing because when you said humble last time was a trait, I didn't find that, at least in the descriptions I was reading. It was, and I mean, we'll get into the different traits and everything, but it seemed like this is a trait that they like to tell people how things are supposed to work. Like, I did the math and this is how things are supposed to operate. And to me, that's like the opposite of humble. That's like know-it-all. But when you said humble last episode, the first song that came to me, and I didn't even put it on the playlist because to me it didn't fit, was, you know, I'm always looking for a Kendrick Lamar song. And he literally, one of his biggest hits is called Humble. So that's the one that came to mind. But And maybe it is very Virgo because he's like, sit down, be humble. Like he's telling people what to do, which I don't know. Virgos are, we'll cover all of the aspects of Virgos, but for right now, there's a simplicity to them. There's a humbleness. Like you said, there's,
Yeah,
they're
there's
the
a
office
humble.
administrative type of work.
Yeah, because Virgo is about helping other people. It's about service. And so when you're really focused on like the task and helping someone and what's practical, you're not that just goes hand in hand with being humble. Like it's not about me trying to be the star here, you know. So humility and humbleness is a big key word for Virgos. So there actually is a great Willie Nelson song called "It's Hard to Be Humble." Now, arguably, this could be a Leo song, but some of the lyrics I think fit. So it starts off saying, "Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way," which perfection is such a Virgo trait too. Virgo is about like wants to be like perfect and accurate. And so yeah, there is kind of like this humility with Virgo, but there is kind of like I do like a feeling of it all and you're very smart, but you're not bragging about it like Leo might. So it's kind of like there is that component, like you were saying, of being a know-it-all, but also you're trying not to like you're trying to be really humble about it, I guess. So, yeah. So he says it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. But then he says, I can't wait to look in the mirror because I get better looking each day. So to me, that was very Leo.
I know. When I was listening to that song, I thought, did this one just miss the Leo playlist? And so you just put it on
Well,
for
I was kind
Virgo.
of like indecisive about it. I was like, should I just put it on? And then I was like, I don't have enough songs for Virgo. We're going to give this one to Virgo. So whatever, it's close enough. It's a Virgo theme. So it's in the title. But another good one for Virgo and, humility is, did you ever see the I'm a big like I like musicals, but I know a lot of people don't like them. Do you like musicals at all?
They're hit or miss. I would say I like musicals. Well, I don't know what the average person thinks of musicals, so it's hard to say. But some of them I love. Like I thought
Okay.
Hamilton was incredible. Moulin Rouge was one of my favorite movies.
Oh, really?
But then some of them, I remember when it came out. It was reimagining a lot of modern songs in a old like kind of
Yeah.
classic theme. It was just really well done and fun. And obviously, I I would consider myself musical. I appreciate music and telling a story through music, but that makes me even more critical of it when I don't like it. So I thought Chicago was just, I couldn't get through it. I didn't like that movie at all.
Oh no. Well, that brings me to my next song. See, Moulin Rouge is maybe my favorite musical, but I also love Chicago and um, Mr. Cellophane by John C. Riley. I put on here because he's just kind of like the whole song is about. I mean, again, I guess you could. No, I think this is Virgo. I was going to say you could argue that it's Leo because he's almost wanting attention, but like the whole song is like him kind of just being invisible and, like nobody ever notices him. And, that's kind of Virgo, even though Virgo might be a little more okay or comfortable with that. Like Virgo doesn't necessarily care or want to be in the spotlight. Actually, being in the spotlight kind of makes me nervous. I mean, being on a podcast is okay because I have Mercury, how we talk in Leo, but like actually the video portion, which we are going to start doing now, is not as you know, it is a little more uncomfortable to me.
Well,
So
we're leaning into our Leo.
yeah.
And it is so Leo that it sort of infringes onto the Virgo playlist.
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah. We need to rein those Leos in, you know? So, but yeah, they had to learn to share some songs with Virgo. Yeah, maybe I'm trying to think like some of the, so, all right. Here's one I was really excited to discover. So another major theme of Virgo is perfection. Do you relate to that? Because I mean, we are both Virgos in a sense, and I feel like sometimes you can get caught up in perfection in different ways, maybe. Do you relate to that?
Yeah, and I sent you a podcast this week in honor of Virgo season about perfectionism. It was a conversation that they were having,
Oh, yeah.
and they broke it down into different types of perfectionists. There's like a traditional one. There's a messy perfectionists, which are the ones who say yes to everything. And then there's the procrastinating perfectionist, which just from them talking about it, that's me. That's where you're waiting for conditions to be perfect before you're going to do the thing. Like I don't necessarily tinker on something until it's perfect. This podcast is a great example of that. We want to make it pretty good, but we're rolling with it. But I will be a perfectionist in the sense that, like, I don't want to start the project unless everything is, the conditions are perfect for it to begin. Otherwise, I think it's gonna take longer than it should. It's not going to be worth our time and effort to do the thing if it's not the right time or if all the pieces aren't ready for us to do the thing.
That's so fascinating. And I still need to listen to that podcast. Thanks for reminding me about it. But what was it called in case someone wants to listen to it? Let me
Oh,
see if I.
we'll put a link in the show notes.
Okay. Oh, it's called Embracing Perfectionism with Catherine Morgan Schaffler. And I don't know if that's Being Well with Forrest Hansen and Dr. Rick Hansen. Oh, Dr. Rick Hansen. Isn't he the author?
We both have books of his.
Yes.
Yeah, great guy. I don't know him. Great guy.
Yeah. Okay. So people can check that out if they want to. But yeah, perfectionism. That's really an interesting observation. Like I feel like I really struggle with perfectionism a lot. I'm trying to think. Yeah, definitely. I don't want to do something unless I feel like I'm going to be really good at it. I really hate like failing, which like this podcast really has made me have to surrender to failure, especially in the beginning when I was like failing so much. That was really, really hard. But I like got through it. But it definitely, I don't know. Yeah, perfectionism, big struggle. Like, and I think when people like something that I realized is like, I used to tell people like I'm a perfectionist, but sometimes that can sound kind of like arrogant or it just can come off the wrong way. Because the way I think about it is I just feel constantly disappointed in myself, in everything, because nothing's perfect, However, when something is perfect, like you get a piece of art or whatever, just perfect, it is extremely satisfying, But anyway, so a great song that I found for perfectionism is actually by Eminem, and I think Beyonce has some credit on there too, called "Walk on Water," which is kind of funny because it kind of sounds like I think Virgos can tend to think that they walk on water, but at the same time, they're constantly beating themselves up because you set very high standards for yourself and you feel like that is what you have to meet. But you just feel like you're always kind of like falling short of that. So the song says, Oh, I should have found it. Sorry.
So it's his aspiration to walk on water, not necessarily claiming that he can walk on water.
Yeah.
He's saying, I hold myself to the standard of walking on water, and I'll never meet that standard. Is my interpretation of what you just said.
Yes, that's totally it. And there was, I had posted like a clip of the video on our Instagram, and it was like the perfect thing. He just is just like struggling so much with the trying to meet perfectionism, because it's just this impossible standard that we like to set for ourselves as Virgos. And you think that that's what people are needing from you in order to be loved and accepted, or like how you could just even live with yourself. But yeah, I really, that song really resonated with me a lot. I thought that was a great one. And I believe Eminem is a Libra, but I did check and he has some planets in Virgo. It's probably Mercury. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it was. But yeah, that was a great one. Another great one that I got on there. It's really like, this has been really fun to discover music, because I mean, I do add a lot of songs that I'm familiar with, but occasionally when I'm like, well, I haven't found anything for this part of the theme, so I'll just like Google it, or are there any songs about this, So it's a great way to discover good music. But there's one song by the Texas Beach Ball Massacre. It's called "If You Want a Job Done Right, Do It Yourself." And I don't actually know that there's any lyrics to that song, but the title just says it all. That is just so Virgo. Virgo is like going to take matters into their own hands and make sure the job gets done right, because they have a great, they're measuring it against perfection. So.
See, I'm still thinking Leo. I'm still thinking of like, I'm the leader. I know what's best for everyone. This is the way the job needs to be done. But this is in relation to you're literally doing the job, which maybe Leo doesn't want to do.
Well, Leo can be at times so full of itself that it might say that. It might think that. And Leo's very good in like a heroic role, being a leader. Virgo is more like, I want to get down into the nitty gritty details. Virgo will do the Excel spreadsheet and put all the data in a, Excel and analyze it. And Leo doesn't necessarily.
This conversation continues for our detective level supporters over at patreon.com/astrodetectives. Your support helps us keep the show running and allows us to produce more episodes like this. We'll be back soon with another case, and until then, thank you for listening.